ask a question off the record?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, viewers, listeners on the various social media platforms. We are broadcasting live from Port of Spain in Trinidad and Tobago for our regular Sunday morning press conference at the office of the Leader of the Opposition. I want to begin by indicating that it is a historic morning after an historic week. This week, August 14th, marked the local government election. We are extremely pleased this morning and elated but humbled by the overwhelming support of the people of Trinidad to the United National Congress and to the leadership of the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. It has been in the public domain, of course, that this week on Monday night, the United National Congress recorded an overwhelming popular vote in Trinidad as a result of the local government elections. It must be noted as well that the United National Congress, as a single party, contested 110 electoral districts, and arising from that, got an overwhelming mandate, while the other political party, the PNM, contested all 141 and were behind by, I think, almost 43,000 votes or so. So that we're extremely elated but humbled by this overwhelming support from the national community to Mrs. Persad-Bissessar. Her leadership drove the party to victory on that evening. There can be no doubt, of course, the national community, the media, identified two battleground regions, notably Sandy Grande and San Fernando. And in both regions, the United National Congress was on the ascendancy, expanded and grew, and won an extra seat, I believe, in Sandy Grande and another seat in San Fernando. In fact, in the city of San Fernando, we were behind by 40 votes, I believe, and that separated the winner in terms of achieving the full victory in that city corporation by 40 votes. But the United National Congress gained one extra electoral district. In Sandy Grande, it was the same story, that we expanded rapidly throughout the country. If you look at Tanapuna, if you look at Princestown, if you look Couva, for example, where there was a new electoral district, the United National Congress took all electoral districts in the Couva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation. Pinal Debe, of course, that was foreseen, and we won all there. Throughout the island, the United National Congress rose and eventually claimed the victory with the popular vote across the board. There was no electoral district, there was no regional corporation where the UNC retreated. It was a case of the United National Congress rising, and we are extremely proud, we are humbled by this overwhelming support. It also means that the People's National Movement was defeated in Tobago a couple of years ago. They have now been defeated in Trinidad. So that, as Jack Warner was one to say, the people of Tobago, the majority voted against the PNM. The majority in Trinidad voted against the PNM. So he said that the only thing they had was the and between Trinidad and Tobago. Apart from that, it's also important to put on the record quickly that the people of Trinidad, the citizens, rejected overwhelmingly that scheme, that harebrained plan about local government reform. That was rejected, and today the PNM and Dr. Rowley, they have no moral authority. They have no moral authority and no political authority to go ahead with any of this harebrained scheme of local government reform, which essentially is really property tax, taxing people. And we are hoping that that local government reform scheme be put on the back burner because the people have rejected it in Trinidad. And in Tobago, well, they have been rejected already. So the United National Congress stands today extremely proud, extremely honored. The leader, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, has accepted victory with great sincerity. She has claimed the victory in the context of the plight of the people. It is clear that our stand the ground approach, our stand the ground campaign worked, and the majority of persons, regardless of class, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of region, embraced the message of the United National Congress. And this is why we can claim victory today in Trinidad. We believe that the PNM today is a lame duck government because they have no authority in Tobago and they have no authority in Trinidad. They are a lame duck government. They are holding on by their fingernails to government. And I think Mrs. Prasad Bisesa has a nail clipper in her purse so that it will not be long before they are removed totally in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago as the government. There are many issues we would like to raise this morning. I'm joined by our young and brilliant attorney at law, Member of Parliament for Barataria Sawa, who himself has been in the forefront of several of the burning issues affecting the country, notably that matter with the Integrity Commission, notably election and boundaries issues. There is an outstanding issue in the Indian Walk Lengua Electoral District, but let me say, before handing over to Mr. Hussein, let me say one time, it is clear that the majority of people who voted in that district voted for the United National Congress. We don't control the deputy presiding officer, whoever she or he is. It is an invisible public officer that apparently didn't put their initial for one reason or another on a ballot, but the ballot was very clear. The will of the elector was very clear. It was the United National Congress. So today we hold the majority there. We will see in the coming days how that will pan off. And Mr. Saddam Hussein is here to speak not only on that matter, but on other related issues and matters of governance. When MP Hussein is finished, I will take over and deal with some matters involving the current crisis now as we speak, the crisis in the airport with Caribbean Airlines. I will speak to some issues of national security and, of course, the conduct of the government. So, MP Saddam, all is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Munilal, for that introduction. Good morning to members of the media who has joined us here, those who are viewing us on the social media platforms live, and also all of those other citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who are tuned in this morning to our regular Sunday morning press briefing. This morning I just want to touch on some very serious concerns, matters in relation to elections and the governance of Trinidad and Tobago. Firstly, I'd like to begin with respect to the state of crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Both myself and Dr. Munilal shadowed the portfolio of national security in the Parliament, in the House of Representatives. And we have seen that there has been a breakdown of all apparatus, processes of national security. We are led by one Fitzgerald Ethelbert Hines, who I think now is the most incompetent minister that has ever been appointed since the independence of Trinidad and Tobago. I believe entering into this weekend, there were just 4 murders in 2 hours in Trinidad and Tobago. Recently this week in Cunupia, a private security officer was in fact gunned down in broad daylight in Chinchin Road, Cunupia. And we have seen the videos that come out of that particular incident, and this morning we want to extend our condolences to the family of that particular officer and friends. And that shows exactly where we are in Trinidad and Tobago. And we are now led also in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service by one Miss Ayla Harewood Christopher. And the police ought to instill some level of confidence and drive fear into the hearts of criminals. But I saw an article yesterday based on some statements made by a very senior officer that when persons now have to go to the bank, they must now hire private security. That in itself is a total admission of failure on the part of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Because if they cannot protect citizens in this country and telling them, will you go and get your own security, then what is the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service doing? That in itself also raises several red flags, because now you identify persons who go to the bank to conduct transactions. If you see them walking in with the security officers, that in itself raises serious concerns with us in the United National Congress. We have in the United National Congress gave our plans throughout this entire campaign period with addressing the serious issue of crime, an issue that the PNM has tried their very best not to address. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, under her leadership, has signaled to Trinidad and Tobago in no uncertain terms, very clear and strong terms, that we require in this country stand your ground laws, which is developed from the castle principle, where if any person intrudes your home, invades your home, you have the right to stand your ground and use the force that is necessary to disarm or, in fact, get rid of that threat to your home and your family and your business. And that is what we have been emphasizing throughout this entire campaign, that we require stand your ground principles, because the law is very uncertain with respect to what we know as the common law defense of self-defense. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa also advocated that persons who qualify for firearms, legal firearms, that the process should be in such a way that it is careful, it is well thought of, but it must be expeditious. Because when you have a minister reporting to Trinidad and Tobago that there are over 12,000 illegal firearms on the streets, but yet the citizens have nothing to protect themselves with, and the police are now telling you we'll go and get private security, it is a total admission of failure by the Minister of National Security and the head of the National Security Council, Dr. Keith Rowley. Today, after he has lost the election, he decided to jet out of Trinidad and Tobago, abdicating his responsibilities while citizens in this country are flooded out and while they are being killed, murdered, robbed, raped. And the Prime Minister is busy playing golf and enjoying himself, while the citizens of this country have to bear the brunt of his mismanagement, incompetence, and negligence in government. So those are the issues I wish to raise with respect to national security. Now, on August 14th, we had something called the local government election. And that election, I must remind Trinidad and Tobago, was only triggered because the United National Congress, through Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Mr. Anand Ramlogan, and Mr. Ravi Balgobin Miraj, had to take this matter all the way up to the Privy Council in order to force the government to call this election, because they have unlawfully and illegally extended the term of councillors by 1 year. They had to come to the parliament to fix that particular law and validate from when the terms of the council expired in December, and then the election was eventually called on August 14th. We had to get this government, take them kicking and screaming before they could have called this local government election. And based on the results of what took place on August 14th last Monday, it showed why the government has been fearful of naming an election date, because they know they would have lost. And that is what happened. The population has to thank Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the United National Congress for fighting for your democratic right to exercise your right to vote in this local government election. And I just want to look at what took place on August 14th when it comes to the election results. The United National Congress contested 110 seats. Let me get this clear. There were 141 seats in this election. The United National Congress had an alliance with the National Transformation Alliance led by Captain Gary Griffith. The UNC contested 110 seats and was able to acquire almost 174,000 votes. The PNM contested all 141 seats and got just about 130,000 votes. So we contested less seats but got more votes than the PNM overall. In fact, we have won the popular vote. The majority of Trinidad and Tobago who exercise their right to vote has told this country that they are fed up with the PNM, that they want new leadership, that they want a new government in the form of the United National Congress, because it was a clear indication that the popular vote went to the United National Congress and our alliance partners in the NTA. we were able to capture just about 60% of the popular vote, PNM capturing a little less than 40% of the popular vote. And in fact, when you look at the results holistically, we won more seats. We got more votes, and we were able to capitalize on some of the inroads that we made. We captured a new seat in San Fernando, the seat of Marabella West. We captured the new seat in the Cuba Tabaqui Talparo, the Roystonia seat. We also captured a new seat in the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation. We captured a new seat in the Mayaro Regional Corporation. We have done extremely well in my own constituency, I must say so myself. In the Sawa Laventille Regional Corporation, we have been able to capture more votes as compared to the numbers in the previous elections. The Chaguanas Borough Corporation, we have done exceedingly well. I believe that it has been reported that the NTA has acquired one alderman in the Diego Martin Regional Corporation. And these, looking at the results holistically, has shown that the United National Congress, under the leadership of Kamala Persad-Bissessar, were clear winners of the August 14th local government election 2023. And I want to take the opportunity to congratulate all of the foot soldiers, congratulate all the candidates, successful and those who are unsuccessful, and all of the party officials, and especially all of those who came out and supported the United National Congress. I say thank you this morning, and we express our gratitude for that mandate. And just to repeat one point that Dr. Munilal made, is that Dr. Rowley has lost all political and moral mandate to govern Trinidad and Tobago. The people of Tobago rejected him resoundingly in the THA elections. The people of Trinidad rejected him resoundingly on August 14th. So Dr. Rowley and his PNM-led administration has lost all political mandate to govern Trinidad and Tobago. But I want to get into some of the very specific issues in relation to what took place on the 14th of August. And that is in relation to two electoral districts. One, the Arima Northeast Electoral District, and two, the Lengua Indian Walk District. In the Arima Northeast District, it was reported that there was an equality of vote, a tie of the vote in that particular election. And when the recount was held, there was one rejected ballot that was in fact a UNC vote that was rejected by the EBC officials. And that vote, based on the submissions, based on the arguments, based on the positions put forward during the recount, the EBC varied that rejected ballot in favor of the UNC as a proper, valid vote towards the UNC, thereby the UNC being the victors in the Arima Northeast Electoral District. Hence, we have gained a seat in the Arima Borough Corporation. I believe there's one exercise that has to take place now, which is called a check of the poll, and we are waiting on that particular exercise to commence. But over the last 24 hours in Trinidad and Tobago, there has been some very unprecedented development in relation to one electoral district that is in the Princestown Regional Corporation, which is the Lengua Indian Walk District. I just want to give some background to what took place, because yesterday, I believe you would have seen that the EBC would have issued a notice, a press release, fresh elections in Lengua Indian Walk. And I just want to explain how we got to that particular point by the EBC issuing this release. On election night, the results after the poll was closed and the ballots were counted was that the PNM would have gained 1,430 votes as compared to the UNC gaining 1,425 votes in that election, a margin of 5 votes. 5 votes. As such, the UNC candidate, Ms. Nicole Gopal, requested a recount of the Lengua Indian Walk District. When this recount was requested for the Lengua Indian Walk District, on the first day of the recount, it was suspiciously found that 2 votes that were cast in favor of the UNC were counted for the PNM. So therefore, there had to be an adjustment of the poll to reflect that the two UNC votes were in fact UNC votes and ought not to have been counted for the PNM. There was one rejected vote that was in favor of the UNC. However, based on the representation by the UNC representatives at that recount, the presiding officer would have varied that vote, giving the UNC one additional vote, which now meant that both parties would have had 1,428 votes. Now, there's one ballot that will determine the election, because this one ballot is what is the contentious ballot, and the EBC has regarded it as a rejected ballot simply because there were no initials of the EBC officials, that is the presiding officer, at the back of the ballot. So the EBC has made a decision that that one ballot that is in favor of the UNC. So currently as we speak, there are 1,429 X's in the ballot boxes, and the PNM has 1,428. So it means that the UNC has the majority in Lengua Indian Walk. In fact, the UNC are the winners of that particular district, and that is why we are raising contention with the exercise that is taking place right now and the decisions being made by the EBC, because there's a clear vote for the UNC. That vote that they have regarded as a rejected ballot, there is an X placed next to the rising sun, and that particular X is in favor of the UNC candidate, meaning that we have 1,429 valid votes in those ballot boxes, giving us the majority. But the EBC has differed by saying that it is a rejected ballot. So, over the last 24 hours or so, there has been correspondence being passed between the UNC and the EBC to try to have some level of clarification with respect to this matter. And the first letter I have in my hand is this letter dated the 18th of August 2023, under the hand of our General Secretary, Mr. Peter Kanhai. And in this first letter, Mr. Peter Kanhai would have written to the Chief Election Officer, Ms. Fane Narcis Scope. This letter dated the 18th of August 2023. And Mr. Kanhai would have written to Mrs. Fane Narcis Scope, indicating that we have sought legal advice in terms of the EBC's decision to invalidate that ballot paper that was cast in favor of the United National Congress. And in this particular letter, he has asked for clarification on the contentious ballot. He has asked in particular that the ballot cannot be considered to be a rejected ballot simply because of an omission by an official of the UNC. So let me put this in a nutshell. A person would have voted in this election. That person would have been issued a proper, valid ballot paper. That person would have cast his vote in favor of the UNC. And today the EBC is telling that person, I cannot count your vote because it did not have an initial. That is no fault of the elector. That is no fault of the voter. So what the EBC is doing is disenfranchising a valid, proper elector and vote because of their negligence, their omission, and their neglect. How can that be right in any democratic society? I believe the EBC's slogan is partners in democracy. Democracy means the right of the people to be heard, the right to elect your government, the right to elect your elected officials. And if the EBC is relying and saying that there is no initials at the back of the ballot, they are disenfranchising that voter because it was of no fault of the voter. It is not the duty of the voter to inspect the ballot. That is the duty of the paid EBC officials that were present on polling day at those particular polling stations. So when Mr. Kanhai would have written this particular letter indicating that this ballot should not be invalidated, Mrs. Narcis Scope, by letter dated the 19th of August 2023, responded to Mr. Kanhai and the United National Congress. And in this particular letter that the EBC would have sent to us, it is a very strange, very illogical, conclusion that the chief election officer has drawn. Because when you read the letter, it lacks just basic understanding and common sense, And I'll explain why I have adopted this position. It is because I want to quote from the letter. The letter says, in relation to this letter was only in relation to the rejected ballot that was cast in favor of the UNC. The letter reads, "My investigations reveal that at the polling station, the presiding officer rejected the ballot as it did not bear her initials, and her decision was not questioned by any candidate or his agent. Consequently, the letter Q was not written on the back of the ballot, and the presiding officer's initial were not appended." So, the EBC now, based on the investigation of the CEO, has confirmed, has admitted that the ballot paper did not have the initials of the presiding officer. In no uncertain terms, the EBC has in fact admitted that. That is a fact. But then it goes on here to say, the CEO is saying, "For the record, I have no basis to conclude that there was any inadvertent omission and or negligence on the part of the deputy presiding officer in failing to initial the ballot paper as alleged." So now the EBC has admitted in one paragraph that they didn't sign the ballot, but in the next paragraph is saying, well, we are not guilty of any omission or negligence. It makes absolutely no sense. So when we read this letter and we have asked the legal team to have a view of this letter, we have under this morning, very early this morning, issued another letter to the EBC, a letter dated August 20th to Mrs. Fern Narcis-Cope. And I'll go through this letter in some more detail. But what the EBC is telling us is that they are washing their hands out of this. That is not so. They cannot do that. The EBC is accountable to the people of Trinidad and Tobago because under the Constitution, you have a constitutional responsibility in order to ensure elections are conducted in a fair, transparent, and accountable manner. There is no dispute that this ballot was not a ballot supplied by the returning officer to the presiding officer. There is no dispute that this ballot paper was one that was issued in that particular by the presiding officer. All of the ballot papers, all of the poll cards, when counted, reconciled. All of the votes in that particular station would have reconciled. So there is no issue of that there is any additional ballots that were in the station or not. The poll cards were adding up to the number of ballots that were in that particular station. So it is clearly illogical for the EBC to draw such a conclusion because there's a wide gap in the logic of the chief elections officer. Now, in our letter that we sent here on the 20th of August, which was sent this morning, this letter is a very clear letter in terms of what ought to have been done and what ought not to have been done. In this letter, our position, just putting it in summary, is that at the time that the presiding officer on the count, this is on the night of the close of the poll when the ballots are being counted for the first time, once the presiding officer has discovered that there were no initials on the ballot paper, the law is clear in terms of Rule 97.4 that in front of the DPO, the DPO would have in front of the presiding officer, the agents present, initial that ballot. Once it was discovered that there was an inadvertence, it should have been initialed. The ballot ought not to have been rejected, and that is our position, that the EBC has failed in their statutory duty in order to properly adhere to the election rules in this particular circumstances. And we have now lodged at every stage when the recount took place, because Mrs. Narcis-Cope is saying that, look, the UNC never objected to this ballot. That is nothing further from the truth, because at every stage of the recount, when the first recount was done, I am to understand there was a lengthy submissions being made by the UNC representatives as to why this ballot was a valid ballot. And in fact, the PNM would have made submissions why it was a rejected ballot. So for Mrs. Narcis-Cope to tell Trinidad and Tobago that this was not the position, that no objection was made, is nothing further. It's the furthest thing from the truth. That was on the first recount. On the second recount, again, when a different officer that was designated by the CEO attended the recount, again, objections were made when that particular ballot came to the station. So for Mrs. Nass's scope to tell Trinidad and Tobago that no objection has been made is simply not true. Simply not true. We have made submissions at every step of the way in terms of the objection on that particular ballot, indicating that it is a valid vote for the United National Congress. And this morning again, I must say that we must thank the political leader for her insight, her legal knowledge, and experience in these matters in guiding this process forward. There was a particular media release that was issued under her hand under the United National Congress this morning, and that particular release has been circulated in terms of our position with respect to that, and the letter dated the 20th of August 2023. And we have asked the EBC, we have given the EBC a deadline that they must respond to our letter August 20th, 2023 for the CEO to clear up some of those gaps in terms of the letter that they would have sent to us. We have given the EBC until 4 p.m. today, Sunday, 20th August 2023, to clear up these matters and also to make full and frank disclosure of the investigations into this particular ballot at the polling station in the Lengua Indian Walk electoral district. And Mrs. Prasad Bissessa would have emphasized that the party is confident of a victory in any elections, any fresh elections, but we must be very careful in setting a dangerous precedent that can only encourage and embolden the EBC in its attempt to interfere in the democratic process in a manner that is not permitted by the law. The ramifications and implications of allowing such action to go unchallenged would have far-reaching consequences for our constitutional democracy. We are therefore duty-bound to give this matter due consideration, act in the public interest, and have this matter fully ventilated in our courts. The EBC is among numerous independent bodies that have been tainted by interference from this government. The EBC must be held accountable for their illegal actions. And this morning I just want to conclude by telling the EBC it is no easy feat to just disenfranchise a voter due to your negligence, inadvertence, and omission. Currently, the EBC and the PNM is standing between the will of the people in Lengua Indian Walk. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MP Saddam Hussein, for that comprehensive analysis of the election results and particularly the developments in the Princestown Regional Corporation, where the EBC is taking it upon themselves to determine an outcome and in so doing suppressing the will of the people. It would really be a sad day when one reflect that the Privy Council had to call the elections and then the Privy Council had to determine the winner in Lengua Indian Walk because of the role of the EBC and the PNM in both of these matters. So that is an ongoing matter that we ask the national community to follow, to reiterate that in any fresh elections, we are confident of victory, the United National Congress. We ask the thousands of supporters to please wash that jersey. Yellow is still the code. Yellow is the code. And keep that jersey press out, iron, and ready and waiting to return to the battlefield in the event that there are fresh elections. So whatever the outcome, we are sure of victory of the United National Congress. In the court, we are sure of victory. If there are fresh elections, we are sure of victory because the majority will there is in favor of the UNC. There are a few matters that I would speak to now. I just wanted to make a point very clear before I begin my few issues that the United National Congress at this time, our political leader, in conjunction with several officers of the party, those candidates-elect and other officers and members and so on is involved in a very, very hectic, time-consuming process of consultation to which we have applied the full mind of the party, and the political leader is leading a process now of consultation, dialogue, participation at all levels of the party and the local government structure, where we are determining and making recommendations for the appointment of mayors, chairmen, aldermen in all the corporations where the law provides that we would have that opportunity. It is a fundamental difference between the PNM and the UNC in this regard. The PNM is able to just churn out mayor, deputy mayor, chairman, alderman, because there is no consultation, there is no transparency. They can do that. In the United National Congress, the political leader has always insisted on a process of participation and consultation. So that is ongoing now, and the UNC will be in good time ready to name those chairmen, mayor, aldermen, and so on, as the law provides for us, and we will do it in conjunction with the process and the timing, the timetable for appointments. So rest assured that that process is ongoing, but because we engage in much more consultation, transparency, and participation, we will take a couple more hours, but it will be done in a time frame that will work with the appointment of those persons as per corporation. There will be absolutely no delay in that. Having won the local government election last Monday on the 14th, it is our duty now to put responsible persons, those persons who are qualified, we believe are best to lead the various regional corporations where the UNC has taken leadership. Brothers and sisters, members of the press, I think the editorial in a newspaper today summarized the situation in the country. It is about blood, it is about flood. That is the editorial that faces us today. Blood and flood. And crime, of course, we are reading in the newspapers where there are six murders in 16 hours in Trinidad and Tobago. 6 murders in 16 hours. The government has lost control. They have legged the wheel, so to speak. The Prime Minister has journeyed off to Barbados for another vacation at his favorite choice of vacation in Barbados. He has gone. The President, I believe, also went on a well-deserved vacation after about 3 months in office, and her leg has healed apparently. So she has gone off on vacation as well, while the bandits and the criminal elements have gone wild in Trinidad and Tobago. The Commissioner of Police or the higher level officers have said to go to the banks now with your private bodyguard. I imagine it's a matter of time before they tell us go to the bank with your priest, your pandit, or your imam as well, to further help to protect yourself there. The Doma, we noted this week, after being quiet during the period of local government election, they have suddenly, awakened and speaking about the society ungovernable and crime has gone rampant. But interestingly, they couldn't make that statement before August 14th. So we leave that as it is. They have condemned the lawlessness. We on this side, we believe this is state-sponsored lawlessness by the failure of the administration to meet and confront with the criminal elements. While that is happening, of course, is rampant flooding in the city of San Fernando, Port of Spain, everywhere. 10 minutes of heavy rainfall lead to massive flooding, inconvenience, and loss of property, and so on. This morning, we are told, as if things wasn't bad enough, we are told that there is now a sick out. Pilots at Caribbean Airlines have reported sick, some have reported, I believe, fatigue, in an ongoing matter. And I want to put on record that those of us in the UNC, myself, but others, we have been speaking about this collapse in negotiation at Caribbean Airlines that are still negotiating for wages several years before. And there are serious matters there concerning burnout, concerning rotating pilots and other staff members. That has been brewing for some time. And the authorities there have failed. The board of directors have failed. The management of Caribbean Airlines has failed. And those who are involved in negotiations have failed, that we have reached a point where the pilots have effectively walked off the job. They have claimed sick leave and so on for today. We have thousands of passengers and citizens stranded at Piarco International Airport, stranded at the A&R Robinson International Airport. There are citizens outside now in New York, in Canada, in Miami, in London, who don't know what is happening. They're in a state of crisis, of paranoia, that we do not have the Caribbean Airlines up and running. I'm told that only one pilot reported for work for the air bridge between Trinidad and Tobago. So the air bridge, Trinidad and Tobago, is being manned by one pilot today. So there is complete crisis and chaos. All of this falls at the feet of the PNM, of Rowley, Imbert, Stuart Young, and others who have failed to manage this process. We were in government before. We know how it's done. You manage a process of negotiation, and might I add that under former Minister Errol McLeod, he managed this situation with unions and companies and state enterprises and so on in a manner that we approved. We participated in formalizing negotiations and concluding negotiations for over 145 collective agreements involving the state sector between 2010 and 2015. Today, one pilot on the air bridge, one pilot on the air bridge. All pilots homesick and fatigued, tired. And these are issues that have been around in Parliament. We raised this matter with the minister responsible for Caribbean Airlines and said, get a hand on it, put a special team together, an interministerial team to oversee this matter. And today it has reached a crescendo and a roadblock, so to speak, no pun intended, with the planes. While this was happening this week, we also took note of the Prime Minister rather reckless and negligent statement about Guyana, in which he has received, I believe, a blessing of expletives on the social media. And I think no lesser person than Excellency Bharat Jagdeo had to buff him up for making that statement. You know, I remember well when Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Visesa made a statement concerning monies, concerning loans and so on in the Caribbean. Mr. Rowley went off on a tirade speaking about Jamaica and how it undermined our trade and so on, and somehow the trade in the Caribbean was going to collapse. Today, the business community of Trinidad in the energy sector, in construction, in services, in manufacturing, are all in Guyana working, helping our people, our brothers and sisters in Guyana, our Caribbean brothers and sisters. And Dr. Rowley has undermined the confidence, the working relationship between the business community of Trinidad and Tobago and that of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, with that rather ill-informed, reckless, tasteless comment that he made on the night of the election. So to the people of Guyana, we say, on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we apologize for Dr. Rowley's statement. Rest assured, it is the statement only from the head of Dr. Rowley and doesn't reflect at all on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and we endorse our good relationship with the people of Guyana and the business community in Guyana. I wanted to get to the first matter now, which involves this matter of the Integrity Commission. Mr. Saddam Hussein and others have been working on this matter. It is the front page of the Newsday, I believe, today. Pope gift the Prime Minister, center of front page of the Newsday today. It is also a matter on the Express. Government opposition MPs list lands properties on Form B, and there are pictures, of course, of government and opposition members who they have inquired in terms of their declarations. And I will just say this because we don't have a whole day to talk, but I will just say this in a nutshell. This matter concerns the Prime Minister, and a matter Mr. Saddam Hussein has taken up, making a false declaration in Form B of the Integrity Commission documents, in which he failed to state that he had acquired apartments and so on in Tobago. But more than this now, the lawyers have written a letter dated August 17, 2023, Freedom Law Chamber, in which it is addressed to the Registrar of the Integrity Commission to indicate that Dr. Rowley knowingly made a false declaration on Form B, Form A, sorry, as it relates to the price of those properties, the townhouse. Whereas he stated the value of 1.2 million, when in fact it was very clear that it was 1.688 million, and that has serious implications as it relates to stamp duty, the tax. So Rowley want all of us to pay property tax but he doesn't want to pay stamp duty tax
City property.
on his property, which he declared on Form A, not Form B. And you know what is amazing is that in the Form B, when they look at the Express today, all the persons they looked at, Foster Cummins, of course, he had 12 properties, so he had additional pages there, I imagine, to fill out. Property in Aruka, Camille Robinson Regis, properties for Wade Mark. Well, I appear there too with 2 property. Properties listed by opposition leader Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Properties listed MP Ravi Ratiram and others. Now, Mr. Foster Cummins, who just came to Parliament, I think a year or 2 ago, he was clear to list 12 of his properties on Form B. But Keith Rowley, who is there 35 years, he didn't know you had to list property apartments on Form B. He said he didn't know that. He didn't know that. But Foster Cummins knew that and got additional paper from the photocopy machine, write down all his 12 property and I think several directorships and so on. Mr. Alwari wrote down all his directorships and so on. It's too long to call. So we are now pursuing this matter. Mr. Ram Logan on behalf of Mr. Balgobin Maraj are pursuing this matter that Dr. Rowley made a false declaration in terms of declaring the value of the properties on Form A. And they attack the Integrity Commission here quite rightly, because the Integrity Commission has taken this kid's glove approach to the matter to suggest that Dr. Rowley may not have known the real value and he did not knowingly make a false declaration. But Dr. Rowley is working through an attorney at law, they quote the man name here, who clearly would have done the work, they putting together this purchase and so on, and would have known from the valuation division of the very government of Trinidad and Tobago that that property was worth more. So the lawyer, and a lawyer, as this letter states, again I don't want to read in detail, but a lawyer takes instructions from their client. A lawyer cannot do anything without being instructed by their client. So the lawyer would have been in touch with Dr. Rowley and said, Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, look at this matter here. We are filing our integrity matters and so on. The value of the property is not 1.2, it is really 1.68. And then we have to pay the requisite stamp duty. On that, all of us who have purchased property, big, small, short or tall, we know the value is based on the market value, the stamp duty is based. So that the lawyer would have consulted Rowley and told him the real value as the valuation division of the Ministry of Finance determined in this matter. Or are they suggesting that the lawyer himself is incompetent and the lawyer himself ought to be taken before the disciplinary committee of the Law Association for some measure of misbehavior or misconduct in this matter, because lawyers take instructions from their clients. They share all information in their possession. A client such as Dr. Rowley cannot claim that he did not know the market value of the properties that he acquired. He must know that, and he must pay the property taxes and the stamp duty tax in the sale. He must pay the stamp duty tax in song with the market value. And that is a matter that is continuing at this time, because this matter will go to the court. The Integrity Commission has taken this soft approach to Keith Rowley. Unlike others, the rest of us, they send orders from court and so on to file your documents.
Pandey.
Yes, and Mr. Pandey, Mr. Finbaganga and so on, they didn't get away with this kind of, well, he didn't knowingly. And then this matter of the gift. What is most... let me just take a sip of water here. What is amazing is the property, or those properties, are being sold by a man and a company that is involved in government contracts. In UDCOT, they are subcontractors to Chinese companies doing large-scale building out of UDCOT. UDCOT falls under the office of the Prime Minister. So a contractor who is working under the UDCOT primary contractor, I believe a Chinese company, a contractor who has enormous work with the THA in Tobago under the PNM previously, who has work under UDCOT, who has work in the government of Trinidad and Tobago by the name of Alan Warner, who is tied, I believe, to a pig farm or something in Tobago with the Prime Minister, sheep and pig or something like that. All of these, links to the Prime Minister, to UDCOT under the office of the Prime Minister, a contractor gives a beautiful discount of $480,000. It is deemed a gift. The Integrity Commission say, well, we're not sure it was done in accordance with the duties of the Prime Minister. Now, what does that mean? Has the Integrity Commission gone completely blind? Are they completely biased? Are they mad, to put it that way? That a contractor, this is not where Dr. Rowley buys an apartment, I believe, and the owners are in Japan. There's no connection with Trinidad and Tobago, and he bought that, and they have no business with the government. They have no business with Dr. Rowley, and they give him a nice discount because they like him. This is a case where a contractor operating with UDICOT under the office of the Prime Minister gives a handsome discount to properties being purchased by the Prime Minister. How can you say that is not connected? This is a case where Alan Warner and his son Keon, I believe Warner, are claiming millions and millions and millions of dollars from the THA and the government for outstanding work. There's a controversy involving that as well. They gave a handsome discount to the Prime Minister in a matter of the sale of apartments. The Integrity Commission said, we're not sure that connected to his job as Prime Minister. So what are you connected to? Huh? His job as pig farmer, sheep farmer? That is a matter that will go to the court, and the Integrity Commission, that like writing all of us letters and so on, they will go to court and explain themselves. So I will leave that there for now. And I want to get on to another matter. This matter was raised by Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa initially. And of course, when Mrs. Prasad Bisesa raised a matter, we listened carefully, and some of us, continue the issue because Mrs. Prasad Bisesa will have a range of issues before. So some of us will continue the advocacy on some of this matter. Now, members of the press, it has come to our attention with the information we have that a minister of government purported to return a weapon. And I have a picture of the weapon if we can get it on the screen, or if we can take a look, or if we have a printer of anything. We have the weapon which we can make available, and you can see what is the picture of the weapon and so on. It is called an SN SE 84500 Springfield St. Edge 556 pistol. It's classified as a pistol because of the length of the barrel. And this is an assault weapon. I have it on the phone here. If someone, if it is possible at all in this that we can, I can send it. Incidentally, I can send it for Mr. Hussein, who is with me now, and easily, I know he's a tech savvy person, and he can easily. It's to your phone, and you can find it and bring it up, and in a moment you'll see it. But I want to say that a government minister appears to have turned in a pistol, a high-powered weapon, and purported to return it to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service at the Armory, which is at the St. James Barracks in Port of Spain. Now, this is fascinating. There are certain conditions under which a citizen, a licensed FUL holder, will return a weapon. Now, to begin with, very few people return legal firearms. Given the state of crime in this country, who will return a legal firearm? Who will go and return a legal firearm? And I think we have it here now, and if we can zoom in, Mr. Buran, if we can zoom in on the pictures that Mr. Hussein is showing you, this is the weapon. Look at that type of weapon. This was in the hands of a government minister who purported to return it to the Armory in Port of Spain, St. James Barracks, the police. It is called a Springfield St. Edge 556 pistol. Why did the minister return and surrender that firearm? In surrendering a firearm, you do that at your district police station. You do not do that at the Armory in Port of Spain. We have to ask the question, why did the Prime Minister instruct that minister to return this weapon? Was this weapon altered in any way to make it an automatic weapon, which means it is illegal? That is the next question. Did the minister apply for what is called an application for a firearm disposal permit pursuant to the Firearms Act, the regulations governing the Firearms Act? Did the minister apply for a firearm disposal permit? Did the minister go to his own district to return this weapon? That is another important question. Did the minister pay fees to return this weapon? And then we are hearing something more startling, very, very important. We are hearing now that this weapon was returned by the minister as a gift to what is called the MOPS. It's called the Multi-Operational Purposes Squad. The MOPS is under a branch called Special Branch. And we are told that the minister purported to return this weapon as a gift to the MOPS. Now the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service cannot accept gift of gun. What do you think this is? 10 case of water, 100 pack of corn kernels and nuts that you are given to the police family day? There's Mrs. Christopher is having, I believe, on the 2nd of September, a grand ball at the Hilton. Women police officers ball. I think some people may donate something to that, maybe some flowers, chocolates, and so on, a bouquet. What do you think this is? A bouquet of flowers you give as a gift to the women police officers for their ball? This is a high-powered rifle, a gun. This is a weapon that may have been altered, being returned by a minister of government. You do not know if this weapon was used in the commission of an offense, a crime, murder, robbery. You cannot take this weapon and give to the MOPS. The police service has its own procedure where they procure weapons and they take extra steps to ensure that ammunition and so on is guarded and they clear. Suppose this weapon was used in the commission of an offense. The minister is purporting, suggesting that it is a gift for the MOPS. The minister, I want to tell the population there are only a few conditions known to the police in which people hand over legal firearm. I will tell you. So when you become 75 years old, Saddam, when you are 75 years old, you believe that you are not physically able anymore and you don't have the capacity to handle a weapon. You have some defect. You develop, you are differently able. You develop some physical defect. Your eyes not good maybe. You can't see properly and so on. Over years, it happens with age. There is a process to return your firearm. And generally, it is persons 75 years and over. It is persons who have developed some physical impairment. That means that they don't have the capacity to handle a weapon. They go and they surrender the weapon to the TTPS. But we are told that this person who returned it is not old. In fact, we are told he's young. We are told that the person is not old. We are told he's young. So this person must explain. This minister of government must explain under what circumstances he's returning this weapon. Did the prime minister direct him to dispose of the gun? How can you purport to give a gift? More importantly now, we are told that the Professional Standards Bureau, headed by one Suzette Martinez, I believe, is now investigating this matter. That is the same bureau that was responsible for kidnapping Brent Thomas in Barbados. They who could not explain themselves in an alleged kidnapping of a citizen in Barbados are now investigating the circumstances under which a not old minister returned high-powered weapon like this. We have no confidence in the Professional Standards Bureau. They are not professional, they don't know of standards, and they are not a bureau. We are calling on the Police Complaint Authority, PCA, to investigate the role of the police and a civilian, a minister, who purported to hand over this high-powered weapon. How did the minister get this in the first place? Did he alter it in any form or fashion? Why is he returning a weapon, a legal firearm, we believe? Why is he returning it to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service? And under no circumstances this can be given to the MOPS. The MOPS don't entertain reports from members of the public. There's a proper procedure to follow. Why did not the minister follow the proper procedure by going by the sergeant in the district police station where he resides and surrendering the weapon and following the process? Is this weapon illegal? That's the next point. Did he tamper with it and then created an illegal weapon? Well, members of the press, this is complete and utter madness that a minister of government could be behaving in this way. And the police service today must answer this question. The Commissioner of Police must indicate whether there is an ongoing investigation involving the return, the surrender of a high-powered weapon by a minister of government in circumstances where proper procedure was not followed, where there is absolutely no explanation on why the minister is returning this weapon in those circumstances, and under what grounds can the police collect this weapon. Those are serious matters when you look at the weapon itself. It is the Commissioner of Police who has authority in this matter pursuant to Chapter 1601 of the Firearms Act, and we are calling upon the Commissioner to make a comprehensive statement. And we hope that this is not a cover-up. This is not a cover-up for something else taking place. So those are the two issues that I wish to raise this morning in conjunction with the very serious issues raised by the member for Barataria Sawa with us this morning. And again, to call upon the Trinidad and Tobago government to be serious, to take the plight of the people in a very sober manner and respond accordingly. This is not a matter to laugh at, to make a joke at. The government is now shut down because I think the entire government has gone on vacation. It is left to us to fend for ourselves. The approach of the TTPS is fend for yourself. Take care of yourself. And I want to reiterate a statement made by Gary Griffith. And don't forget, Mr. Griffith leads a political party which in a short time amassed 16,000 votes in 31 seats, electoral district. And Mr. Griffith has said, and I support that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is not a security consultancy. It is not there to consult with the population. The role of the police really is not to give you advice on nothing. It is to prevent crime. It is to detect crime. It is to convict criminals. They are giving every day a release telling you what to do. Make sure your camera working. Make sure you sweep the garage. Make sure you take a bodyguard with you. That is not the role of the police. The police is the police. It's the patrol to ensure that they get the grip on crime. And for the police service to be telling business persons, walk with a bodyguard to the bank is almost obscene. And I leave it right there. So I know we'll have a few questions to answer. Again, I want to extend condolences to the family, friends of the security guard that was killed, and to remind the population that this government came not once but twice with legislation to deal with the estate police constabulary, to make it professional, to ensure that there are standards, to ensure that there are codes of conduct, to ensure that employers conduct themselves in a certain way, provide bulletproof vests, provide equipment, have workers in a proper health and safety environment, under proper terms and conditions of work. And on both occasions, the government allowed that legislation to lapse. So the government is not serious about estate police. And that is a matter I believe in the coming days we'll speak more to. So thank you all very much, and both of us will take some questions at this time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Munilal, for that very comprehensive analysis on those burning issues facing our country, especially with respect to the Integrity Commission and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. There's one question from Mr. Jewel Brown. What specific legal action can the UNC initiate if the UNC's leadership determines this is necessary regarding the Lengua Indian Walk electoral district? The response to that question is this: is that the UNC, under the Representation of the People Act and other various pieces of law, has the right to an audience in the court to indicate that the EBC has acted in an unlawful, illegal manner, that the rejected ballot that was cast in favor of the United National Congress was in fact a valid ballot. So there are recourses in the law. You will hear more from this in the next 24 hours. We have given the EBC a deadline of 4 p.m. today to respond to our letter that was sent very early this morning. Another question is, would the final result in Lengua Indian Walk change the overall result of the UNC having won the control of the PTRC, Princeton Regional Corporation, or would it impact the number of aldermen the UNC shall have at that corporation? So currently, we have won all of the seats in the Princeton Regional Corporation, so we have control over that particular regional corporation. This seat now is in respect to contention based on the various issues as outlined. With respect to the question on the aldermen, in 2013, and I think we must commend Mrs. Prasad and the partnership government, it was the only time an amendment was made to the law to allow for proportional representation to be part of the electoral process. And when you look at the 2013 amendment to the law, it is basically saying that the aldermen are calculated based on the total number of votes cast per regional corporation to determine the allocation of the aldermen. Currently, as it stands, that allocation cannot take place until there is a final number of votes for the particular regional corporation. So therefore, we will just have to wait in terms of the next 24 hours to see what the position is in terms of that. But aldermen allocations are only completed after the elections have been declared for all of the electoral districts within that particular regional corporation. Those are the two questions that were sent to me.
We have a follow-up question for that, sir. The EBC is saying that the ballot in question, when it was first noted, none of the opposition's polling agents raised any objections to it at the time.
Our position on that is that ballot ought to have been initialed on that night by the respective EBC officials there. Objections were raised on the first recount, on the second recount. In fact, there were lengthy submissions on it. The EBC has no power, or the presiding officer in that instance had no power to reject that ballot because it ought not to have been rejected, but in fact it had to be initialed and counted as a proper UNC valid vote. And thereby we would have ended all of this quandary, as the UNC is in fact the victor. As I want to repeat this point, Dr. Munilal, that there are 1,429 votes for the UNC in that electoral district, and the PNM has 1,428. It is the EBC that is now between the will of the people and the elected representatives.
What is the time frame? What is there a time frame for this election?
Based on the law, the fresh elections provision in the election rules said that the election must take place as soon as possible. But those are issues that we will also address in the next 24 hours.
Dr. Miller, you mentioned the strike action occurred today by employees of Caribbean Airlines.
Sure.
Are you concerned that this may create some safety issues with regards to the airport security and passenger safety as well?
Yes, these matters always lead to serious concerns in terms of safety, in terms of security at the airports as well, given the state of convulsion. I'm told now that we are developing news is that flights from Canada have also been suspended because of the operations in the airport, because the airport itself is in a chaotic situation, and we have been told that Canadian flights from Canada have also been suspended. I wanted to reiterate that this matter is not new. For about a couple of years now, we have been speaking in the Parliament about the failure of the Caribbean Airlines management and other authorities to meet and treat with pilots and staff on sometimes common issues of industrial relations and worker management. One of the issues we are told is that there is not only wages, not only pilot salary negotiations that are at stake here, but matters of working conditions on the ATRs, and the cockpits, air-conditioned systems malfunctioning, overall working conditions, the stress on staff that they do not manage the staff in a proper way so that persons work double and triple shift and so on, and fatigue comes in. These are matters that are not new, but the failure to meet and treat with it led to this crisis today. And therefore we have serious concerns to raise with the management of the airline, with the management of the airport as well, that is suspect. And as I said, we will be monitoring that matter. I also have a question coming in as well from a couple other sources, and I would just like to reiterate that yes, someone has asked whether the Integrity Commission operates in a way where it is one law for one person and one law for another person, and that is correct. We are seeing now that the Integrity Commission is soft as far as they treat Prime Minister Rowley. But the Integrity Commission, when they deal with members of the opposition and former Prime Minister Pandey, Finbar Ganga and so on, they adopted a sledgehammer approach in dealing with these people. In terms of the matter I raised before, I want to call clearly on the Minister of Government. The minister who is not old, he's young. I want to call on that minister to issue a statement. This is a minister who has police guarding him day and night. I wonder if this minister can also tell the country how much weapons he has personally. We are told that there's a minister in government with 5 personal firearms and police and security guards at his side day and night. This is the minister, we are told, who's surrendering weapons and want to give a weapon as if it's a gift. I'm asking the minister to come forward and inform Trinidad and Tobago, to use the term made popular by Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. The minister, could you tell us if this is your matic? Tell us if this is your matic that you have surrendered. Because had it been a UNC minister, the police would have been all around our house now with a shovel and a fork and digging up the ground, looking for weapons and ammunition and so on. And I think now this young minister must be questioned. And I caution the TTPS, I want to caution TTPS that governments come and governments go. And I hope the TTPS themselves is not aiding and abetting in this matter. I hope that the TTPS themselves understand that the government will change very soon. And we will call for a comprehensive investigation in this matter. And I hope they do not cover up this not old minister. I will leave it at that at that now.
Dr. Miller, how is it possible for this minister to get an automatic weapon, which must have been procured legally?
Well, our information is when the weapon was obtained, it was semi-automatic or so, but it was not illegal. But the minister may have tampered with it and may have altered it so that it became illegal. And then when the matter came up of what is legal and illegal, he may have gone in a sly, suspicious, surreptitious manner to return it, in a quiet way that nobody will see him. But you can't escape the eyes of Saddam Hussein and others. On the Cal matter, I'm just repeating for someone who had asked me that the other issue in Cal, and these are issues that management can work at over a period of time, is that the Cal has put on the table a proposal to reduce the salaries of pilots. Could you imagine that? They are proposing to reduce pilot salary, to eliminate guaranteed salaries and implement payment based on flights and so on. What do they think it is, huh? I mean, what do they think it is, a day walk? They are treating pilots as if the pilots are coming to do a day walk. So you come to work today, you work, you get your pay and you go home. These are serious professionals that have opportunities throughout the world to get work. We cannot chase away qualified persons. Listen, if they don't manage this thing here, Foster Cummins might be a pilot soon. So you have to be careful, treat professionals in a professional way. That is what we are asking the Caribbean Airlines management and the government to do.
Okay, I think those are all the questions we have.
All right. Thank you very much, members of the media. Thank you very much, all those who have participated in this press conference in terms of your questions. We look forward to informing you of some of the more pressing issues in this coming week. This week, I know Dr. Munilal will be a very busy week because we have these matters of the Lengua Indian Walk and the Arima Northeast seat that have been settled, and we expect responses from the various ministers based on your concerns and queries that you have raised today in the public's interest. So we thank you very much again for joining us this morning.